laws and ordinances to help support the city. We also go in and handle budgetary agenda to help make sure that we have all of the funds necessary for both like playgrounds and infrastructure to make sure that the city's functioning properly. We are also an intermediary between the citizens and the government. And so those are the major duties that we perform. We act as a unit. Each councilman, of course, has one vote. The councilman at large is usually a tiebreaker. We don't have a set ward per se. We're outside of the wards, but we do handle the whole city. And so that's why the councilman at large office is very similar to the mayor's in that every single ward votes for the councilman at large.
So how will you be able to make BSL an improved town with your position as the at-large councilman?
I think with my background and my education, I'm able to use my skill set to really listen to the citizens and be able to formulate really good opinions and help craft laws to help facilitate whatever needs to be done for that individual ward. Every councilman in every ward I'm gonna have to work with. And if, say for example, a citizen doesn't get along with their councilman, they can come to the councilman at large and we'll try to help facilitate that citizen and those needs and wants. However, I really want to stress to you that the councilman at large is someone who needs to be able to shepherd the other councilmen, to give them advice, and to try to help them in their position to do what they need to do.
Okay, now the next question is, I wrote this question in response to something that each of you had said in the supplement that was in the newspaper a couple of weeks ago. So, Mr. Smith, please be specific about the viable changes in zoning that you mentioned, the viable changes.
Yes, ma'am.
How would you get these changes made, and also how would you enforce current zoning laws?
Okay, so any type of changes that would be made would have to be made, of course, with the consent of the council and a 4 or 5 person vote, if there were indeed any changes that need to be made. Right now, the way that the council, and well, the laws and the ordinances are written, I think they're fine. I mean, we just need to follow them. Now, when a person violates those ordinances or laws, there needs to be some accountability for that. And we need to be able to tell a person, look, if you built this add-on to your house or a shed or something that's not supposed to be there, then you're gonna have to take that down. You can't just build something without permits and the correct, way to go about things. There's a procedure you have to follow. So, did that answer your question?
Well, you touched on it, but you were specific in saying that viable changes needed to be made in zoning.
Right.
And I'm asking you tonight to be specific about it. I mean, I'm not asking for a list, but an example even of a viable change you think needs to be made in zoning.
Well, I'd say, for example, we need to make sure like that the 25-foot setback is appropriate for new buildings or new buildings that are going up and that type of thing. But basically, that's the only thing I can think of right off the top of my head.
Right. Now, okay, so let's take that same example and go to the last part of that question.
Yes, ma'am.
How would you enforce that? What process do you go through?
Well, once again, the permitting process is very important, and going through P&Z before it even comes to the council.
Right.
We have to make sure that our P&Z knows and are following the ordinances and the zoning laws before they ever come to us. And an example of that would be, for development that's going across the street from my home right now on, Old Spanish Trail.
Yeah,
Those, when we first started off with that project, they were actually gonna want to build an apartment complex, and it was zoned for that. And I talked to the developers and I said, no way could we have this. The citizens would riot if you put an apartment complex on St. Charles. And so I convinced them otherwise to keep it R1 and suitable for homes in that area that were gonna reflect the same homes that were already in there for the Shieldsboro 1. Then it came to my attention that the constituents said, you know, we think 75 feet is not large enough for those homes to go on. And I listened